Before you scroll away thinking this is just another travel video, I need you to understand something. What you're about to see is a lie. Not my lie, but nature's grand, magnificent lie. That river looks turquoise, pristine, almost impossibly beautiful, as if it's been fed by the melted sapphires of a mythical mountain. The canyon walls look ancient, solid, and eternal. Together, they paint a picture of a planet that is pure, unchanging, and peacefully majestic. But that serenity is the ultimate illusion. Every single hue, every curve of that rock, every shimmer on that water's surface is the visible, screaming result of planetary violence, relentless chemical warfare, and a slow-motion architectural project that makes every human endeavor look like a fleeting sandcastle. This is not a postcard. This is a crime scene, a construction site, and a chemical laboratory, all operating on a time scale that defies our comprehension. Your mind is about to be rewired. If you're ready to have your reality of beauty shattered and rebuilt on a foundation of staggering truth, hit that subscribe button and slam the notification bell right now. Because for the next 20 minutes, we are not tourists. We are forensic detectives dissecting the most beautiful crime on Earth. Your first case starts in 5 seconds. Let's start with the most obvious, the most hypnotic feature, that turquoise water. It looks digitally enhanced, doesn't it? As if some video editor cranked the saturation slider to 100. Our brains, conditioned by tourism brochures and social media filters, immediately label it pure and clean. But that color is not a sign of purity. It's a suspension of ancient rock powder, a specific type of sediment known as glacial flour or rock flour. To understand this, we need to travel hundreds of miles upstream to the cold, grinding heart of distant mountains where glaciers, these colossal rivers of ice several hundred feet thick, are in constant, agonizing motion. They are not smooth sliders. They are gargantuan bulldozers armed with billions of tons of abrasive grit. As a glacier inches forward, its immense weight and the rocks, frozen within its base, scrape and pulverize the bedrock. Beneath it, granite, limestone, shale, reducing solid continental rock to a fine, silty powder with particles so tiny they are measured in micrometers. This isn't ordinary dirt. It's rock ground finer than most kitchen flour. When summer melt arrives, this prodigious amount of silt is flushed from under the glacier into the headwater streams, which then converge into the main river. Now here's the physics of the deception. When sunlight hits the river, it penetrates the surface. The water molecules themselves are excellent at absorbing the longer wavelengths of light, the reds, oranges, and yellows. But they allow shorter wavelengths, the blues and greens, to scatter. In pure, deep ocean water, this scattering gives us the familiar deep blue. But our river is not pure water. It's a dilute soup of these microscopic rock particles. These suspended particles perform a different trick. They don't absorb the red light as efficiently. Instead, they scatter the entire spectrum of light, but with a preference for the shorter blue and green wavelengths. Because the particles are so exceedingly fine, they remain suspended for incredible distances, refusing to settle, creating a uniform milky turquoise hue. The specific shade, leaning more towards a brilliant aqua blue or a milky jade green, depends on the mineral composition of the source rock, the particle size distribution, the angle of the sun, and the depth of the water. A river fed by a glacier grinding predominantly limestone will often have a brighter, almost Caribbean turquoise, while one fed from granite might trend towards a colder, grayer blue. This means the very beauty that draws us in is, literally, dissolved mountain. The river is not a clear window, but a flowing curtain of liquid stone. Every photon of that beautiful turquoise light bouncing into your eyes has collided with a fragment of a continent that was until recently locked in a frozen tomb. The river's journey is thus a continuous funeral procession for mountains carrying their finely ground remains towards the sea. Furthermore, the intensity of the color is a direct indicator of glacial activity upstream. A brighter, more opaque turquoise often means a highly active, healthy glacier in its erosive prime. A clear river might signal a retreating, less productive ice mass. So when you admire that color, you are witnessing a real-time geological report, a visual gauge of ice age processes still relentlessly shaping a modern landscape. It is the aesthetic side effect of unimaginable mechanical force, a pretty face on a brutal process. The water is not merely flowing, it is transporting the very evidence of its own creation, painting its path with the colors of destruction. This chromatic marvel requires a perfect, delicate balance of glaciology, hydrology, and optics. A balance that can be shattered by climate change or tectonic shifts. That mesmerizing turquoise, therefore, is a fleeting signature, a temporary tattoo on the planet's surface, written in the ink of pulverized bedrock. Now, shift your gaze from the liquid to the solid, from the painter to the canvas. Those towering, stratified canyon walls, often banded in shades of red, ochre, and brown, seem like permanent, immutable sculptures. We look at them and feel a sense of dwarfed awe, perceiving them as monuments of stability. This, too, is a profound misreading. A canyon is not a monument, it is an absence. It is a void carved into a plateau, a testament not to what is there, but to what has been ruthlessly removed over millions of years. The primary architect of this staggering void is the very same river that now appears so placidly beautiful. But to call it a river is to understate its role. Think of it instead as a master. Sculptor armed with the chisel of gravity and the sandpaper of that suspended sediment. The process begins with a simple, universal rule: water follows the path of least resistance downhill. Eons ago, this river was likely a gentle stream on a vast, uplifted plain, a slight depression, a random crack from an earthquake, or a variation in rock softness gave that trickle of water a starting path. Once a path is established, the real work begins through a dual action mechanism, downcutting and lateral erosion. Downcutting is the river's vertical attack. The water's kinetic energy, derived from its gravitational fall, is used to scour the riverbed. This isn't just water washing over rock. The real cutting tools are the rocks, boulders, and, most importantly, that relentless glacial flow the river carries. During floods, when the river's volume and speed increase exponentially, it picks up larger rocks and gravel. These become nature's chisels and hammers, relentlessly pounding, grinding, and sanding the riverbed, slowly deepening the channel grain by grain, millimeter by millennium. The suspended silt, while giving the water its color, acts like liquid sandpaper, constantly abrading every surface it touches. Meanwhile, lateral erosion is the horizontal attack. Rivers rarely flow straight. They develop curves called meanders. On the outside of a curve, the water flows fastest, cutting into the bank and undercutting it. On the inside curve, where the flow is slower, sediment is deposited. Over time, this process causes the meanders to migrate across the landscape like a slowly swinging scythe, widening the canyon. But the river is not working on a uniform block. The canyon walls reveal the secret. Geology is layered like a cake. The river encounters alternating layers of hard rock like sandstone or basalt and soft rock like shale or mudstone. It slices through the soft layers with relative ease, creating slopes or benches. When it hits a resilient caprock layer, vertical progress is momentarily stalled. It must laboriously abrade that hard layer, often focusing its energy laterally until it finally breaches it, leading to a sudden period of rapid downcutting through the softer material beneath. This differential erosion creates the canyon's iconic, stepped profile sheer cliffs of durable rock, separated by sloping terraces of weaker material. The stunning banding of colors tells the story of chemical history. The red and orange hues are iron oxides rust, indicating periods when the ancient sediments were exposed to oxygen in the air, perhaps in a desert or a shallow sea. Gray or green layers might indicate reduced oxygen-poor environments like deep ocean floors. Each stripe is a page from a different epoch, a different climate, a different world, now bound together in this stone book and cut open by the river for us to read. The canyon's depth, therefore, is a complex ledger of time, rock strength, and water persistence. It is a negative space created by the positive, relentless export of billions of tons of material to some distant ocean delta. The grandeur you feel is the sensation of standing in a hole of epic proportions, a hole that narrates Earth's autobiography in layers of color and form, all made visible by the unceasing, patient soul of flowing water. At this point, you might envision the river as a mindless, persistent machine, endlessly cutting downward until it eventually reaches some final flat level. But nature abhors simple narratives. The relationship between the river and its canyon is not a one-way street of erosion. It is a sophisticated, dynamic, and feedback-driven dance approaching a state of delicate balance known in geomorphology as dynamic equilibrium. Imagine a master woodcarver whose block of wood is simultaneously being pushed upward from below. That is precisely what happens in many great canyons, particularly in tectonically active regions. The Earth's crust is not static, immense tectonic. Forces can slowly uplift an entire region, raising the plateau through which the river flows. This introduces a cosmic race. Can the river cut down as fast as the land rises beneath it? In the case of the planet's most spectacular canyons, the answer, miraculously, is yes. The river becomes a fixed track, anchored to its base level, usually sea level, while the landmass rises around it. This is like running on a descending escalator that's going up. You have to run faster just to go down. This relentless uplift provides the river with the sustained gravitational fall it needs to maintain its cutting power over millions of years. Without uplift, the river would gradually reduce its gradient, slow down, lose energy, and eventually shift to primarily depositing sediment, filling its own valley. Uplift keeps the river young, angry, and erosive, but the system is laced with intricate feedback loops. As the river deepens the canyon, it exposes more rock layers to a new and powerful force weathering. The canyon walls, now towering and exposed, are bombarded by subaerial processes. Physical weathering, like freeze-thaw cycles, exploits cracks. Water seeps into joints, freezes, expands by 9%, and pries rocks apart. Thermal expansion and contraction from daily temperature swings stress the rock. Then comes chemical weathering. Rainwater, slightly acidic from dissolved carbon dioxide, slowly dissolves carbonate rocks like limestone. It reacts with silicate minerals, weakening them. Biological weathering follows, as pioneer plants and lichens send tiny roots into cracks and secrete acids. These processes don't carve the canyon directly, but they precondition the walls, loosening vast volumes of rock that are then removed by the river's other key partner, gravity. This brings us to the most dramatic events in canyon evolution: mass wasting. Landslides, rock falls, and debris flows are not interruptions to the process. They are the primary delivery system for moving material from the walls to the river. A colossal block of cliff face, undercut by the river and weakened by weathering, shears off and crashes into the gorge. The river, now partially dammed, must then go to work on this new debris, breaking it down, grinding it into more tools and more colorful sediment, and flushing it downstream. The canyon's width is largely determined by this cycle of wall retreat via mass wasting. The river cuts down, steepening the walls until they exceed their angle of stability, then gravity cleans the slate, and the river tidies up the mess. The canyon thus self-regulates. Its form, its depth, width, and slope as a process, incredibly slow, responds to the inputs of water discharge, sediment load, rock strength, and tectonic uplift. It is a system constantly adjusting to find a profile where the rate of erosion matches the rate of uplift and wall collapse. When you gaze at that serene turquoise ribbon winding through the monumental cliffs, you are not looking at a finished product. You are looking at a single frame from a multi-million-year movie. A snapshot of a titanic, ongoing negotiation between the lifting force of the planet's mantle, the destructive force of water and ice, and the relentless pull of gravity. The apparent stillness is an illusion of our brief lifespans. In geologic time, this scene is buzzing with frantic, violent activity. This brings us to the core of nature's grand deception, the serene, postcard-perfect vista you see from the rim, or in a drone shot, belies a landscape of immense, hidden power and constant, subtle danger. The human tendency is to see the turquoise water as inviting, and the rock walls as stable stages for adventure. This perception is not just inaccurate, it can be fatally so. Let's deconstruct the tranquility, that beautiful, milky water's opacity is its first great trick. You cannot see into it. A pool that looks knee-deep might be 10 feet over your head, hiding submerged snags, undercut rocks, and cold, powerful currents. The very sediment that gives it color increases its density and drag, making swimming more strenuous. More critically, that sediment load is a direct indicator of the river's immense, hidden energy. To keep billions of microscopic rock particles perpetually suspended requires constant, vigorous turbulence. The river's not flowing. It is boiling internally, with eddies and currents. Furthermore, the river's flow is governed by distant, invisible clocks, the diurnal melt cycle of its glacial source. On a sunny afternoon, miles upstream, a glacier is melting at its peak. That surge of water takes hours to travel downstream, meaning the river at your feet can transform from a gentle flow to a raging, bankful torrent in a matter of hours, even under a clear sky. A hiker who camps on a seemingly dry sandbar at dusk can be swept away by a sudden pulse of water before dawn. The canyon walls are equally deceptive. They're majestic. Sun-baked faces seem eternal, but they are landscapes in a state of precarious equilibrium. The processes of weathering and undercutting are continuous. The most dangerous time is often after a rainstorm or during freeze-thaw cycles, when water has infiltrated cracks and destabilized rock masses. A rockfall can be triggered by something as small as the vibration of a passing animal, a gust of wind, or the cumulative stress of time. There is no warning rumble. One moment there is silence, the next a cataclysmic roar, as thousands of tons of rock liberate themselves in a chaotic, lethal descent. For anyone within the canyon, these events are inescapable. The terrain itself is a labyrinth of traps. The beautiful, smooth-looking rock can be polished to a glass-like slickness by eons of water and sand. A simple misstep can lead to a long, uncontrolled slide. Slot canyons, often tributaries to the main gorge, can be death traps during flash floods from thunderstorms miles away, even when the main canyon is dry and sunny. The ecosystem within the canyon is also a study in extreme adaptation and hidden potency. Plants cling to cracks with root systems that can split rock. Animals are elusive, camouflaged, and often equipped with potent venoms or defensive adaptations honed by the harsh environment. The temperature gradients are extreme, with scorching heat on the sun-baked rim and frigid, damp cold at the river level. This serene landscape, therefore, demands hypervigilance. It does not forgive assumptions. Its beauty is a product of forces that are, by human scale, violent and unforgiving. To venture into it is to step onto a geological battlefield where the conflicts are fought in millimeters per year, but whose casualties can be claimed in an instant. The canyon's lesson is one of profound respect. It teaches that the most stunning vistas on our planet are not gardens. They are engines. They are not sanctuaries of peace, but theaters of immense, slow-motion power. Their allure is genuine, but it is the allure of witnessing fundamental planetary forces at work. A thrill that comes with the inherent risk of getting too close to the machinery. Finally, we must confront the most humbling truth of all. This breathtaking feature, which seems so permanent, so definitive on the landscape, is an ephemeral signature. It is a temporary phenomenon in the long biography of the continent. Every canyon has a life cycle: birth, maturity, and old age. It is born from a combination of uplift and a establishing watercourse. It matures through the vigorous downcutting and widening we've described, reaching its peak of dramatic relief. But eventually, the tectonic uplift slows or stops. The river's gradient decreases. Its energy wanes. The primary force shifts from vertical erosion to lateral erosion and, crucially, to the gradual wearing down of the surrounding plateau. The once sharp, deep canyon begins to suffer the fate of all mountains. It is rounded off, smoothed down, and filled in by its own debris. Steep walls retreat and soften into gentle slopes. The river widens into a broad, meandering valley. The dramatic relief dissipates. The turquoise color may fade if the glacial sources disappear. The canyon, in effect, becomes a ghost of itself, a faint topographic memory on an aging landscape. This life cycle, spanning tens of millions of years, is happening right now. We are merely privileged to be witnessing a snapshot during its dramatic, mature phase. But there is a new, accelerated force on the scene: U.S. Human-induced climate change is directly impacting both key ingredients, the water and the sediment. Rising temperatures are causing glaciers to retreat at an unprecedented pace, not just shrink but thin and disappear. This has a direct and complex impact on the river. Initially, meltwater may increase, leading to higher, more erosive flows. But this is a short-lived surge. As the glacier diminishes, the annual meltwater supply becomes less predictable and eventually declines. Most critically, the primary source of the iconic rock floor, the grinding base of the active glacier, dries up. The river's sediment load changes, first potentially increasing as unstable, unvegetated moraines are eroded, then drastically decreasing as the connection to the glacial mill is lost. The water may clear, shifting from turquoise to a conventional blue or green, fundamentally altering the visual identity of the place. The river's cutting power may change with its altered flow regime. Furthermore, climate change can alter precipitation patterns, leading to more intense, erosive storms or prolonged droughts, each affecting the weathering rates on the canyon walls and the frequency of mass wasting events. Our presence also brings direct impacts: tourism pressure, water diversion for agriculture or cities, and the introduction of pollutants. We are now unwittingly participating in the geological story. We are not just observers. We have become a new, fast-acting geological agent. This realization imposes a profound responsibility. The canyon is not just a spectacle for our enjoyment. It is an active document, a scientific laboratory, and a masterpiece of natural forces. Our role must shift from passive tourist to informed steward and humble student. We must advocate for policies that protect watersheds, mitigate climate change, and manage tourism sustainably to minimize our footprint on these fragile, dynamic systems. We must support the science that monitors these changes, understanding that the canyon's evolution is now a key indicator of planetary health. So what do you do with this information? You don't just close this tab and move on. You have been let in on the secret. You now see the violence in the color, the absence in the walls, the dance in the stillness, and the peril in the peace. You understand that this landscape is a verb, not a noun. This knowledge changes everything, makes you a different kind of viewer, a different kind of traveler. Here's your call to action, and it has 3 parts. First, solidify this knowledge, share this video, start a conversation in the comments below, debate a point, ask a deeper question, tell us about a canyon that stunned you. Hit that share button and send this to someone who thinks they've just seen a pretty picture. Let's build a community of people who see the world with geological eyes. Second, commit to being a steward. When you visit such a place, and I urge you to, with this new perspective practice, leave no trace principles religiously. Support the national parks, conservation groups, and scientific institutions that protect and study these wonders. Consider your carbon footprint, because the glaciers that paint these rivers blue are hanging in the balance. Finally, and most importantly, stay curious. This is just one story. The planet is filled with millions more. Every desert dune, every volcanic peak, every limestone cave has a similarly epic, hidden biography. Smash that subscribe button and ring the notification bell, because this channel is dedicated to pulling back the curtain on Earth's greatest deceptions. We are going to dissect beaches that are fish skeletons, mountains that are ancient sea floors, and forests that communicate through underground networks. Your journey as a planetary detective starts now. Don't just watch the world, understand it. The truth is far more spectacular than the postcard. I'll see you in the next investigation.